Hello, my name is Liam Meyer, and I'm a senior manager on the customer success team here at GreenValley International. Today I'm going to talk to you about a very specific system that we make. It's part of our LiAir line of UAV-LiDAR products. That is called the LiAir V. And really this is kind of just some observations. I've put together a list, a top 5 list, reasons why I believe that UAV-LiDAR is for everybody, specifically within this context of what the LiAir V provides and the software that GreenValley International makes. So kind of some of the motivation for, I guess, or I should say, some of the reasons that LiAir V has become so successful with customers is actually because of the aerial vehicles that they're mounted to themselves. These have really, over the last 5 to 10 years, become much easier to control. We're seeing much longer flight times. I mean, look at what's now achievable with the DJI M300 RTK that was recently released. And they've also become more reliable over time too, as companies like GreenValley International have continued to innovate and manufacture these devices and learn along the way. So another reason that I think UAV LiDAR is really now for everybody is that there's really good flight control apps out there, third-party ones besides GreenValley International's Live Plan, that can really make data capture easy and straightforward in a lot of ways for UAV LiDAR systems. Another thing is that there's a lot of professional certifications and training programs available now. People can learn about LiDAR data, not just the data capture side, but also the processing side. There's also, this applies to the UAVs themselves. There's a lot of training and certifications available so people can really become professionals when working with this new technology. And lastly, I think that what we're seeing too is that the payloads themselves, particularly in the case of the LiAir V, are becoming very easy to use. Now this is relative to what they used to be like to use, you know, where maybe you had to plug multiple cables, you had to set different control parameters every time. There was more buttons to press, more indicator lights to check. You know, just more steps that stand in the way of someone actually getting what they want, which is that point cloud data from the UAV LiDAR system. So all these things are kind of working together to really create a setting where LiAir V can thrive. So, you know, I was part of the product release for LiAir V at CES in Las Vegas here at the beginning of 2020. And really it's been exciting to listen to customers' feedback, right? So aside from being overall, you know, struck with the overall level of satisfaction that we're seeing in customers with this particular product, I'm actually kind of blown away by the number of people who are adopting this technology now, who have no prior experience with LiDAR before. So, and I don't think I'm alone in this observation. Actually, I talked to a lot of our partners and resellers, and they too are saying that they're seeing this adoption of the technology by people who don't really have much prior experience with it. So today, I guess I want to, as I mentioned earlier, kind of talk through a list, what I put together of kind of my top 5 reasons why I think UAV LiDAR is for everyone, and really why our LiAir V solution makes it so approachable. So first reason I have here on my notes is that it really is a truly complete solution. So what I mean by that is what GreenValley has designed and built and developed is the hardware and software and smooth trade-offs between these two that you need to actually capture, pre-process, and then post-process, and then generate specific deliverables from UAV LiDAR data. So, you know, this is kind of what people want in the sense where you have these kind of technologies that are maybe a little intimidating for some in terms of the learning curve, that you just have one company that you're really working with and you learn their ecosystem, and it's just gets people through that learning curve much quicker, and it's easy for them down the road as well. So this is really what GVI has kind of, you know, done in a concerted effort, is to really design and develop and craft this experience where there's seamless transition from data collection to data processing to the final deliverable creation. And what we have here in the V, in this hardware system, here's one right here, is you actually have an integrated set of systems, right? You have a LiVox mid-40 LiDAR sensor here, you have a camera, you have a mounting adapter kit and power that will pull from the Skyport design, found on DJI systems. You have integrated light panels, and it's all in this nice, compact, somewhat ruggedized design. It's very handy in this sense that it can be carried around. There's not a bunch of wires hanging out. It's a very finished, polished looking product. So as I said, what you can do with this is you can collect aerial 3D LiDAR point cloud data as well as RGB images. There's a camera on this. And you can also, and this is maybe a kind of a secondary benefit, is you're actually getting an accurate and a precise and time-attributed pose estimate from the system as well. So pose estimation is not only the latitude and longitude and the elevation, measurements of where that instrument was during data collection, but also the time attribution of those measurements. So this can be really handy if you want to, say, take those those photos or those images that are in the integrated camera and geotag them as inputs to some sort of photogrammetry workflow and produce photogrammetry-based output. So we have software for that too, but we'll get to that next, actually, as I start to talk about software. The one that's most interesting for LiAir V users to know about is going to be our LiGeoReference. And what this basically does is what other leading UAV-LiDAR manufacturers might offer to people through a cloud-based service or maybe through 2 or 3 different software programs. We're actually able to accomplish all this in one, which is called our LiGeoReference software. So what this does is allow you to import a project file that's stored in each LiAir V's mission folder. You can also process the trajectory that I talked about earlier to get that really accurate pose information using the software's LiNav module. Once LiNav completes, you can read some quality reports to see what your trajectory data looks like and accept it before using that information to then georeference the laser scan data and create your final point clouds. There's also tools in there for reprojecting those point clouds to a different target spatial reference system. So that's another can of worms, but it's really nice for people who are working in some local coordinate system, something other than the native WGS84 outputs of the LiAR V unit itself. So you can also colorize the point cloud, so it takes the images from the integrated camera that are collected during the flight and then stitches them to the point clouds or fuses them and attributes those XYZ coordinate values with RGB values from the imagery. Things you can also do, it's just nice, is a fine calibration and strip alignment. We have plenty of videos about this, but it's a real great tool to have in your kit when working with UAV LiDAR data or aerial LiDAR data in general. So aside from that, you can also export out to a .las file from LiGeoReference or LiData, right? And LiData is going to be I guess this is where we say the smooth handoff, right? Because LiData can then be brought into our LiDAR 360 software, and with that software, you're able to do quite a bit of things related to the UAV data collection. Actually, you can see what your strip overlap percentages are to make sure you're hitting project specs. You can also see elevation deviations between overlapping strips or adjacent flight lines. This is an interesting way to look at accuracy across space and not just at specific points like you would with survey elevation checkpoint data. So you can do a control point report as well in LiDAR 360. You can actually do this in LiGeoReference as well to check vertical accuracies. There's some ways with some manual point picking tools. You can do a horizontal accuracy check. You can also remove outliers from the data, classify things like ground points, which is important to do typically before you do your control point report with working with UAV LiDAR data. And you can also have kind of an interactive way to check those classifications, clean them up before making final data products, which a lot of our users want. I don't know, bare earth models, contours, DEMs, lots of different options where you can take your point cloud in LiDAR 360. We also have another standalone software that's designed for working with LiData files and actually any LiDAR data that's targeting vegetation management industries. It's called LiPowerline. I won't go into today, but really interesting, nice integrations we have, again, from the data capture with LiAR V to the processing of that data to the kind of the post-processing final deliverable creation here with that workflow that it ends with LiPowerline. And then lastly, we have LiMapper. Always good to point out, these images plus that pose data, trajectory, processed in LiNav, can make some really nice photogrammetry data products. And you're collecting it all in the same flight. It's an independent pose system than the drone, so basically have two pose systems on board. There's a lot of benefits for that maybe that you can think of with your creative engineering teams, but we have had customers come to us with exciting just about the independent pose system itself. So we get on to reason number 2 here. So I'm burning through time, and that's cost, right? So comparable systems from other leading UAV-LiDAR manufacturers can cost as much as $200,000 US, and that's without the drone maybe. So you're comparing this against the ability to get a full UAV-LiDAR system from GreenValley International, probably with the drone and all the required software for under 50K, 50,000 in US. So at this price level, people who've been interested in UAV-LiDAR before, but didn't necessarily have the capital resources needed to get in the game, are actually now able to, and able to kind of take on new business verticals, research tools, data capturing tools. So it's a really exciting time to kind of open up this technology to everybody, and removing that cost barrier is huge. It can really move mountains for customers. So that's a huge reason why I think UAV LiDAR is, specifically the LiAir V, is for everybody. So ease of use, right? This is also something that LiAir V offers, and then its design is really well thought out to include, and this is basically a one-button operation, right? So I'm gonna walk you through real quick what I mean by that. So basically you arrive at site, you set up your base station, you start collecting data, you fly the actual, you unpack and set up your drone, you mount the payload to it, the LiAir V system, turn it on, you start recording data, you wait 5 minutes, you take off, fly your route, then you land, you wait another 5 minutes. This is all for that post-processing of the trajectory data that happens in LiNav and LiGeoReference, GreenValley software. And then you're going to stop recording. You can either swap the batteries at that point in time or download the data itself. And then basically you shut down the system, stop logging base station, and pack up and go home. So it's very straightforward, especially, I spoke the process there, but usually when we're out in the field with people, it used to take maybe a half a day to train them with the LiAir V. We're getting people through it all in a couple hours. So it's really made it nice and to teach people to use this system in a way, because people can really grasp it much quicker maybe than some of the more traditional higher end systems that you'll find on the market. So also it's only coming in, without the camera, about just over 1 kilogram. So it's extremely portable. It carries in a small case. It can fit in an overhead on a plane. It's excellent for that. And short data processing times really for this. So in a flight that's maybe 20 minutes or so, it's going to take about 20 minutes to process, be looking at your colorized point cloud. This is after downloading the data. So this is going to be also true for great for in the field work, that you'll be able to have a kind of almost a one-to-one from data capture time to data processing, and you'll be able to leave the field with your point cloud in hand. And maybe you won't have your accuracy checks done or your final processing, but you at least know you've captured good data, and that's great, because a lot of times getting to and from the site can be the most time-consuming part of the whole process. So finally, we offer this software that you need to actually get this result. It's a standalone software, so you can do it in the field. A lot of competitors offer, or even weekend in some cases, cloud-based trajectory processing, point cloud data processing. So having that all on a computer that you have access to without the internet around can be critical for certain types of operations. Now I'll move on to reason number 4, and that's data quality. So this is really the spec sheet of the LiAir V itself. We can get an accuracy of vertical root mean square error value of about 5 centimeter. We can generate up to 3 returns per pulse. So you can think of this in forests and areas where you're going to be able to get multiple returns as that beam gets spliced up by different objects in the environment, versus where you get multiple returns from each one of those splices. As compared to shooting something like a flat parking lot, right? Where your first return is your last return. There's one pulse coming back on that because it's just a flat, large object. So yeah, up to 3 returns per pulse, which is really cool. Maximum range capacity of 260 meters, but this is for something that's very, very reflective. For flying most environments, we recommend about 100-meter AGL is good. Kind of optimizes coverage, while at the same time making sure you have enough point cloud density. If you fly too high, you're not going to won't get returns from low reflectivity objects, and this is going to create some issues with point cloud density. So the other thing is about data quality. I mean, we have a lot of tools in the software itself to assess data quality. I talked about some of the trajectory quality assessment tools, the elevation assessment tools. There's really quite a few different ways you can look at accuracy, and that's really a whole nother topic, but there's more things you can discuss than just a series of survey checkpoints when it comes to talking about UAV-LiDAR data, which is really high resolution and really that deserves some attention too when you talk about the quality of the data. And then finally, the image quality, right? So we got 4K by 6K resolution on the imagery. Great, it's good enough for photogrammetry. And like I said, you can collect both photogrammetry inputs or images and LiDAR in the same flight with the LiAir V. And now, finally, we make the number 5, and this one's maybe a stretch if you're not a LiDAR or drone nerd like myself, and that's that it's enjoyable, right? So for a lot of people, flying UAVs, drones, or whatever you want to call them is really an amazing thing for them. It's an amazing piece of technology that allows people to build careers and businesses around what amounts to being outside a lot of time. You get to see a lot of new places, meet a lot of interesting people, and that's very rewarding, I think. And also, when you add the LiDAR component and not just flying the UAVs, you really get what I think is even a more rewarding experience. The addition of this remote sensing payload to an unmanned aerial platform creates an opportunity for people to kind of flex their problem-solving skills, and their critical thinking skills, and ultimately feel that sense of kind of pride in a job well done. So, to conclude, my 5 reasons for why UAV-LiDAR, specifically the LiAir V, is for everyone, is that it is the complete solution, thanks to GVI's thoughtful design and development process. The cost really moves mountains for lots of customers. It's easy to use, so those learning curves not so intimidating. The data quality is 5 centimeters. You can do a lot with 5 centimeters of accuracy is what we're learning here as a company. And lastly, it's enjoyable. So my name is Liam Meyer, and thank you for watching this webinar today. And we hope to have more for you in the future to review, to get to know the company better, as well as our products. Bye-bye.